we have a great new Todd's tips for you. How to set up, adjust, do some minor service, and make your ROWE jukebox work correctly. Want to watch? For the next 30 minutes, I think you're going to learn a lot. It's R93 learning time. This is an R93 jukebox made by ROWE. It's one of the last 45 RPM jukeboxes to be made. The last one was the R94. The R93 and 94 both had a CD player in them that played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 CDs. Isn't that nice? But it actually played 6 CDs. However, the CD player is not in it. We have the maximum 100 song selection here now. So of course you want to have 100 selections. You don't want just 80 selections and 6 CDs. So this is the maximum, and here, what's rather interesting, what you could do with this area, you could cut these 2 boxes out, and then you'd see the records playing. That's what some of our customers did. It's really nice. See, when you lift up the jukebox lid, this will all come together soon. You snap this piece in. Now the struts never ever supported the jukebox. They simply made the lid less heavy. And then you lock in using this piece of plastic. Now you can buy that from Hap Controls. Susan Hap Controls still sells them. There's a link in the description window. They're only like $6 or $8 or something. That holds your lid up, safe and sound. You lift these 2 here, and this swings down, so you can slide out the old title strips and put in new ones. Now these records are not in here. But what I was talking about earlier, if you carefully remove these 2 sections, it corresponds where the records are, and then you'll be able to see the records pull out and select. It's really nice. So that's an option you could think about if you own one of these machines. Your window to see the records. How nice. Now, a lot of people didn't know this. By hitting these 2 clips here, this swings open. This keeps it from hitting you on the foot. If you unplug the speakers and the light bulbs, the whole panel will lift out so you can get to the woofers on the bottom. Isn't that nice? Here I have a manual, original manual in here, along with, believe it or not, spare pins, even a spare belt for the belt drive. It's a belt drive turntable. So if this belt breaks, you can put another one in. See, this just lifts up. It's very simple. Now, when we transport it, that's why I've been clutching this. This will go under here, and then we rubber band it down. You'll see in a minute. We're going to see the records of N first. Under here is the amplifier with the bass and treble controls for the left and right channels, okay? But if you wanted to run something, extension speakers, you would use these taps. Now, if the speakers are in the room, you run left here. That's your left sound, and that's your ground, your common. And over here, you can just have one common, and then your right. The higher up the tab, the louder the music will be. So if you put your speaker that's on the other side of the room on E1 and E7 for the left, and then E1 and E7 for the right, or using that one and E7, it'll have more sound than this speaker in the box. If you loosen this screw and slide this out, your wires can come through in the back, right to that. But suppose you wanted to have your sound at the swimming pool, which is like not only on another floor, but like on the other side of the world. That's when you use the 70 volt line. See this right here? 70 volt bottom. If you just want to run mono, you would hook a regular normal speaker wire to A1 and A2. then you will get a signal that's mixed for stereo. You go out this port and you run that single wire all the way out to your swimming pool where you're going to have one speaker. If you wanted to run two speakers, you would hook up to A1 and A2 for the left channel and A1 and A2 for the right channel. You run two speaker wires out, but you can't just hook them up to your speaker, because if you do, the speaker will blow up. Okay? You have to buy a transformer. The ones for individual speakers are much smaller. They're called 70-volt transformers, and they step down the voltage, the 70 volts, back to wattage. Does that make sense? Well, you won't blow up your speakers. Those transformers are about 15 bucks each. So if you put two speakers at the pool, you're going to need two transformers. If you want them to be stereo, these two will go to speaker 1 to the transformer. These two will go to speaker 2 with the transformer. You don't have to use the 70-volt line if the speakers are in the same room. Just use these taps. Okay, now right now it's putting about, I think it's about 40 watts to the speakers on E6. The amplifier is capable of producing, gosh, let me look on the amp, 130 watts. Okay, so that can put out 130 watts. So you can't put like 100 speakers on this thing, but you could sure put a bunch if you use the 70-volt line. Here's the computer. Okay, that's the power, 8 volts. See the dash? That means the computer's running. If you move this switch here to the service, right here, like clunk, it's going to come up with error 33. That, my friends, is the bill acceptor, which is not in it, and it never will be, ever again. Okay? But you can access some information here by flipping the switch. See most? The most popular record right now is 00, 100. It's been played 16 times. There's a whole bunch of least populars because we haven't played any other records. But this will actually step through and show you all the most popular. The most popular is 01, and 21 was played 5 times. 98 was played 3 times. This is since we overhauled it. We didn't really play it. If you wanted to erase the information, you take a key or something and stick it in that hole, and it pushes a button. Everything's been erased from the memory. The lithium battery that's in there will last about 6 years, 7 years. It's a regular battery, so nothing special, little round silver cell. Okay, let's go on to loading the records. You slide the service switch to service. Now you can push this button to spin the basket. Okay? So, this is record 100. They don't put the 1. So Alice is on one side and Room's on Fire on the other. You're done. That's it. You go around and load your records all as you can. Okay? So this record is 166. It's So Much in Love. Okay? This record is Turn the Beat Around is, well, we'll make that 162. Now, once you load your records, you slide this back to off or on. Now, if you get your finger stuck in anything, if you slide it to off, it cuts all the voltage to the computer, to the mechanism, everywhere. The amplifier is still in its dormant state. Okay, so that's still running, but it's in mute. But then you can unclog your finger. Hopefully you don't get your finger stuck in there. When you're done, you can push this all the way up to on, or if you close the door will do it. Yes, do you know how many people were leaving the machine on service and then walking away? So ROWE thought of that, and they came up with a switch gadget that automatically, as soon as you lower the lid, this lever pushes that and you're back in normal. When you're in that mode, the button doesn't scan, see? And the machine's waiting for a command from you. Once I put a record in, I can reject it from here. Now, I have other videos up online. That screw is where you set the record. See this is a glass tube with a little magnetic switch in it, a reed switch. This is how the record knows that it's over. The magnet's right here. So when that gets over to the right spot, it'll reject it. We've adjusted the machine so it rejects at the normal spot for almost every record out there. You will find a record or two that rejects too early. Those are usually the 7-minute records because there's so many grooves jammed in it. So you have to take the good with the bad. You see, when it hits that mute, it shuts off the sound of the needle, so you don't hear the end of the record go shh, shh, shh. You don't hear that. The mute cuts it off. As soon as it hits that switch, pulls the record up, and then you're done. So for instance, I'll give you an example. Here, watch. I'm going to put the record here. I can manually turn the record on. Oh, by the way, we like the ROWE mechanism because it has the least amount of switches. So if I turn that like that, look at the mechanism, it plops the record down. And then it'll reject it. It's just an easy way because the record is not turning, but you basically saw the mechanism. So once again, we activate it, it plops it down, and then it'll reject it. Okay, now, if you make a flip side song, that's when these coils come into effect, and the machine will automatically flip it. So the arm, when it comes down here, it hits a different cog, and then it flips it. So the record plays the flip side. Do you see this right here? The beauty of ROWE is this is an optic. If I take that out, I can actually slide this out. The optic, single optic, tells the jukebox what record's playing. Here's how it works. Excuse me. When you first turn the machine on, I have to make sure this is an on. Okay. The machine is waiting for a command. Okay. If I put a record in, what did I call that one? 161. The jukebox has to first find out where the 0 position is. So it's going to spin twice. There's one notch that the jukebox is looking for. As soon as it locates that notch, it knows exactly where 161 is because it counts them. I can't play anymore. Now, so in other words, when you put your first selection in, the basket's going to spin until it finds the notch. One of these notches. There they are right there, look. Do you see these notches? One of them's not there. The optic's looking for the one that's not there. And then it starts counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 until it got to 61. And then it knew it got to the right spot. If your jukebox is picking up the song before or after it, you just have to loosen this and move it slightly. So the notch reads it either before or after, a little bit different. Now watch what happens when I bring the tone arm over like so. As soon as it gets to the spot, oh boy, is that loud. Let me turn it down a hair, just a hair. There we go. Now watch. Now watch, listen. It hit that sensor. You didn't hear the shh, and that was it. Look, the tone arm even brushes. Do you remember how your parents used to do this with a needle? Well, the brush does it. It does it before it plays the record and after. And here's something else. Do you notice your turntable at your house? The turntable arm is over here. It's not here. This is on the reverse side, but the cartridge is mounted in reverse. Isn't that neat? So it's playing the record correctly, but it's playing it, I guess you could say, backwards. So the turntable's spinning in the right direction, but because the arm's over here, the cartridge has to be backwards. Oh, I want to show you something important. Are you aware that almost every ROWE and ROWE jukebox from the 70s and 80s, and then I guess right up to the very early 90s, used the same Shure cartridge and the same diamond needle. The blue, the light blue, means it's diamond. And that needle can play like 2,000-3,000 records before you need to replace it. You can buy the needle on eBay, like $10, $12, $13 the needles are. Common needle, the most produced needle in the world. They still sell it, isn't that nice? So, we're ready now. Now, if you want to package the machine up, okay, for moving, you need, oh, see how it's floating? So that's if some bozo comes up and gives it a kick. There's an actual good chance it won't skip. Even though the tone arm is tracking, it's not tracking at a gram. Don't tell me it's a gram. Now, it's going to track at maybe 3 grams. So the needle's not going to bounce around. But that wonderful mechanism has the least amount of parts. Service tip. See this board? You see these connectors? If you loosen the screw in the bottom, this will come right out. The plastic slides right off the back cover, and then you'll see the back side of all these plugs. I tell you right now, they're all ice cold. All the header pins are not ice cold, I mean really cold, unless somebody has reheated them. That's the #1 problem with these jukeboxes. Header pins are ice cold, header pins are ice cold, battery dead. There you go. Reheat the pins, change the battery, it'll probably work. Amplifier is another baby. This is the carry handle. You take these 2 screws out, you unplug 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's the power for the amp. This will lift right out of the machine so you can service it. That has ice cold header pins too. Okay, so power supply. Look on the side here, Pat. Can you see the 3 red lights? Make sure you have 3 red lights on. If you don't, there's probably nothing wrong with the power supply other than ice cold header pins. There's also some capacitors you could change in that too for good measure. This jukebox has 4 fluorescent tubes. These 2 are identical. You can buy them at Home Depot. And there's 2 sideways tubes here. This is a 4-speaker system. We have the mid-range here and here, and you can see the coils here to interface them with the 2 woofers on the bottom. They're 10-inch woofers on the bottom. The bass is full of insulation or padding, so you can get that deep thumping bass. If you like things that thump. Now you know how you can take the door off in a splash. We have disconnected the latch to lock it. These are the locking mechs. And we're going to give the customer this bag if they ever want to put it back on. There's even a key. We suggest you leave it unlocked because you will lose the key. Everybody loses the key. Don't they, Pat? A grunt would suffice. Ugh, like that, Pat. Just say, do something. You could at least do no with the camera lens. No, he's not doing anything. He's my silent filmer. Now, so you're going to tighten these down. Oops. Okay. For moving. Now, you can you can take this mechanism out of the machine. It's just sitting here, or you can leave it in. If you choose to leave it in the machine, tighten these down. If you don't, you're a fool. Let's face it, we're all fools sometimes. So we're going to tighten these babies down. This one's a little harder to get to. By the way, I've had people ask me about the weight. I would leave it with the factory, but they sell weight kits where you can loosen this to make it lighter weight. The factory's pretty accurate. There's other adjustments on this. That screw, for instance, if you loosen it, this circuit board moves around to adjust where it rejects the record. That's one option. And you could do that if you felt like it. This screw here, if you loosen that, this one, that adjusts where the mechanism sets the record down. See that screw? That adjusts, and see it rides on this cam. Remember the cam I was showing you earlier? The machine's not happy. It doesn't like that. Here, look, let's show you. Watch the cam here. See? And out it goes. Okay? So, it's kind of a quick video, isn't it? But it did help a little bit, I hope. Now, before you tie down the arm, turn the game or the machine off, and ideally unplug it, and then put the foam in, because you don't want this arm to bang around and rattle around. Just put a piece of foam there, and then get a nice big rubber band and put it someplace over here and around. I always put it here. It just holds the arm in place. Make sure you remove it before you plug it in. Before you plug it in. Make sure you remove this before you knock it out. Oh, listen, also sells this motor. It's a plug and play. This is a brand new motor we put in. You can actually see the connector here is a little yellow, the new white one. That spins the records. They use the same motor to spin the bubble tubes on the remake. Okay, so you might want to buy a new motor. The motors are $55. They ain't cheap. Now, back here. Come back here, Pat. You put this in here. Okay. You put this in here. Okay? You don't have to, but I did. The handles are helpful when you're dragging it around. I wanted to show you something. An extraordinary repair is done by Steve. He's a Gottlieb pinball collector, but he's also amazing with his hands. These were cracked. This model and the model after it are notorious for cracking on these corners, the plastic. This has all been refiberglassed and repainted. You'd never know they were cracked. He did a beautiful job on this. He did a nice job. This box is ready now. Are you ready? Are you exhausted? Did I confuse you even more? Anyway, hopefully this video helps you out a little bit. And of course, what I showed you pretty much applies to all the R80s and 90s ROWE jukeboxes. Cold header pins, number 1. Dead battery, number 2. By the way, the last thing you could do is you can always buy new wheels for the bottom. They made very good, durable wheels for the ROWEs, and they tend not to have a problem. I'm going to show you one final thing that we don't do, but in the back, every jukebox ever made, you will find this, in a ROWE jukebox at least. The game shipped with a screw that goes into the player in the back. There's a hole in the back of that mechanism. That was a shipping screw because the machine could go all over the place in the truck. And that was one further way of knowing that the mechanism would not move around. Nobody ever puts those screws back in now, but when they first shipped from the factory, that was a must. They always had that one in. Some people always said, what's this for? And I said, well, nobody uses it now. I guess you could. I think I covered everything. Hope this Todd's Tips video was a big help for you. And thank you very much for watching, and make sure you like my videos and subscribe. Good night.
If we can dream it.